Sam Altman, in his recent essay, The Intelligence Age, lays out his vision for the near to medium term future as his role as CEO of OpenAI and the challenges we will face as a society in dealing with what he believes to be basically a certainty that his company, OpenAI, will develop an artificial general intelligence that will be able to perform most, if not all, of human labor, both intellectual and physical, at some point in the near future. What he sees as the primary issues in the near term is making sure that this technology is widely available to everyone that wants to use it, and that it isn't limited to the rich being the people that get to use it. Okay? That's basically his essay. And his, the carrot, the prize at the end of this near-term struggle, if he is successful, the paradise waiting for us on the other side, one in which human labor is obsolete, one in which no one needs to work for food or shelter or transportation or healthcare, one in which we will have technology and healthcare and other areas of life where perhaps our lifespan will greatly increase, our health span will increase. Lots of really amazing, imaginable but out of reach things right now will become suddenly imminent and available to all. So that's like the entire content of Sam's essay. Curtis Yarvin responds to this essay and not really to the essay entirely. It's more a response to Sam Altman himself, and not so much his vision of the near-term struggles in creating artificial intelligence. No, Curtis really takes issue with the future beyond the creation of artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence. He believes, Sam in his essay uses the former occupation of a lamplighter as an example. He says that, us looking back, a lamplighter seems like a completely useless job. Of course, they don't exist anymore because they are useless. It's a completely economically unproductive, unnecessary job that no one does anymore. And he says, in the future, what we do today will seem just as useless, just as economically nonsensical, right? Curtis, on the other hand, says, no, we won't be occupying ourselves with advanced activities that are only available through the combination of artificial general intelligence and human labor. We will actually have to return to these kinds of very simple, very basic, menial tasks, because we should already be doing that. People today should be lamplighters, in Curtis's opinion. He's really trying to deal, Curtis's, with the consequences of what a truly post-scarcity, post-labor society would look like, and what its obvious, what its more obvious consequences might be. You know, Sam in the past, in other writings, has expressed his acceptance of hedonism, you know, of the idea that people want to experience their life getting better year to year. And by better, he means richer, you know, more exciting, more fun, basically. But Curtis has a huge issue with this and thinks that the end result of this kind of thinking basically resolves to taking drugs and watching porn, right? Like the ultimate in hedonic enjoyment, I guess. And instead, he thinks when all human labor is outmoded, becomes unnecessary, we actually need at that point to return to a kind of society in which we limit ourselves in the use of this technology, right? Not to ban it outright, but to limit its applicability. His vision is basically one in which every person has a job that is at the perfect level of difficulty for them, where all of their powers can be used to develop themselves and their craft. So it's basically an artisanal society. Of course, there will be garbage men and lamplighters and you know, people who pick up litter, etc. Like there are some people for which that is the most they can do. But the idea is that everyone is always occupied in the work that maximizes the use of their abilities, right? I find Curtis's vision more concrete, more imaginable, but I think only because Sam's vision is, like, by definition, less concrete, less imaginable, because in his mind, the labor of the future is as incomprehensible as computer programming would be to a lamplighter a couple hundred years ago, right? Like, so he doesn't know exactly what the future holds, but he's optimistic that there will be stuff to do, right? That is useful in some way. The problem I have with Curtis's vision is in the idea of limitation. Okay, either this technology is basically all-powerful and it can be resisted and boxed in some way, which is hard to believe, or the technology itself is limited in application. And at that point, for any coherent and critiquable vision of the future to be proposed, you have to choose at which point the technology becomes limited. You know, does it ever get like much beyond human intelligence in the same way that a computer can now beat every human at chess? Will a computer be able to outsmart every human in every domain? Or will it be just like we can deploy virtual human intelligences, right? So like, that's the decision you have to make in order to begin to propose a solution. And I think that's a hard thing to predict. It's kind of arbitrary where you draw that line, because we really have no reason to believe that this technology will pan out at all. The analogy I just drew with chess, it's not the same as writing an essay or building a car or playing the guitar or making a table. All these things are not even close to being done by a computer. Even writing an essay, like ChatGPT can write what would objectively be called a B+ essay in 5 seconds, okay? But that's kind of the extent of AI's real applicability these days, is like just cheating at school. And that's already an artificial kind of institution that doesn't really exist because writing essays or doing math problems is inherently valuable. It's valuable for you, it's valuable for you to do the work because it makes you better in some way, right? It improves you. And if you ask the computer to do it for you, the benefit is totally lost, right? But of course, it becomes valuable to make it seem like you did better in school than you would have by yourself, because in some scenarios, being a top student at a university can get you more than if you weren't the top student, right? But even that is kind of very rare, I think. It's more like you went to this school and graduated rather than you were the top student at that school, right? So just maybe AI is useful for getting into a good university, right? That might be the incentive to cheat. That's a total aside. So where was I going with this? Yeah, it's totally unproven. We don't know if it'll pan out. But given that it will, even then it's hard to say where it will stop. If it doesn't stop, I don't think Curtis's vision or Sam's vision is likely to occur. I think, it's something totally unpredictable will be the case. If it's limited, it greatly depends at which level it is limited. To predict how it might affect our society. And given that the level at which you pick for it to be limited is arbitrary and not like really based on anything, I don't feel comfortable saying what I think will actually happen, because I don't really have a clear idea of what will happen. What I would prefer, given that the scenario in which the technology is unbounded, where it becomes super intelligent, and it becomes totally out of control and unpredictable in ways that no one can imagine. Results in our death and our total complete erasure from planet Earth, I won't even consider that. So I'll just like imagine the ideal, or what I would like prefer as like a small improvement to society today. I think, Marxists talk a lot about organizing labor in the context of, in a very narrow sense, so that they can better negotiate with management, with capital, with the owners, and so they can get more money, more benefits for the same amount of work. I envision a future not in which labor itself, as in the laborers themselves, are organized in this way, but in which work itself is discretely organized. Because when you think about what a corporation is, what a company is, it exists to organize tasks in such a way that any person could do them. Amazon organizes package delivery in such a way that any person can be hired and trained in a very short period of time and become the person that drives boxes from one place to another all day. And unfortunately, that's not a good job for a lot of people. It's a very difficult job. It's a job that, is not pleasant. But you could also compare that kind of work of driving boxes from one place to another for Amazon to the gig economy of driving food from one place to another, for Grubhub or any of these apps, right? For Uber Eats, where people actually doing the work are in full control of how much work they're doing, right? And I can kind of see a world in which labor beyond just driving things back and forth to people is in this way available for everyone and is on demand, right? Like you can work as much as you want and not work as much as you want. You can deliver food one day, you can work on a construction site the next, you can do some other job the next day, work in a hospital the next day, be a paramedic the next day. That kind of appeals to me because I don't know, I think it is kind of the happy medium between the artisanal society where we kind of are a neo-Luddite that rejects this technology in a lot of ways, and maybe doesn't reap all of the benefits of it. But we're not in this utopian place where we're doing advanced forms of labor that we can't even really conceptualize right now, right? We're in this spot where labor itself, it's not exactly a hobby. It's still a necessity for people. but it's something that is like the ultimate end of workers' rights. It's like the worker, him or herself, is in full control over their working conditions. Maybe that results in a kind of race to the bottom. Hopefully there's enough work to go around, and I think there would be in this scenario. I think there is already enough work to go around. The problem is in the organization. The problem is in the pipeline of jobs being in the format which is workable by different people at different times, et cetera, et cetera. It's difficult to explain, but I think you can maybe get the gist of what I'm saying. But like I said before, this is an exercise in science fiction, not in, real political proposition. It's something yet to be proved actually a problem. To what extent is Sam Altman writing stuff like this in an effort to just squeeze as much money out of this product that he has, ChatGPT, while the iron is hot, right? While it hasn't been proven to be limited in some fundamental way. Sam has been proven to be a kind of Machiavellian character, one who is definitely looking out for number one, looking out for himself, looking out for his own interests. And I think he might be playing into this utopian idea of superintelligence in order to just buy as much time as possible. Progress on LLMs has basically stalled, or they're at least slowing their roll. They're not, making the advances that they once were just a year ago, right? And is that because they're strategically slowing the drip so people don't realize that the limits of this technology have already been reached? And he's pumping it up right now so that he can get more money while he still can? Or is it because he's seen the other side? He's seen that he actually will have at his disposal power beyond all comprehension, and he really is a truly philanthropic, human-centered, generous person that wants everyone to flourish in this age, the post-industrial one, and the next age, the so-called intelligence age. I think the former is more likely, but maybe the latter is the reality. We won't know until we know.